Welcome back to Wellness Wave. Thanks for tuning in this morning to ride the wave with us. Each week our goal is to give you at least one suggestion that will make your life a little better. My name is philgeorge. I'm a clinical biochemist, a certified personal trainer and health coach. Please remember that everything we discuss on the show is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Always seek the guidance of your doctor. I'm here with Art, who's promised me he's going to give me some very tough questions today. So we'll see what happens. But first, what I wanted to do is, it's funny because I also have a radio show on WCRN, and at the beginning of each show, I read a letter from one of the listeners that has a question that I think is pertinent to the audience in general. And actually, I had a whole different idea for this show today, but I got an email this morning from a listener that I thought actually is a pretty popular subject, which is cholesterol. So I don't normally like to read, but I'm going to read this verbatim, and then I'm going to answer her question, and then I think it'll make sense to you. It says, "Hi Phil, this is Wendy. I have a question for you. My cholesterol level has been going up. The total cholesterol is 242, and the LDL is 167. Do you have any suggestions on what to do? I am in menopause, and I feel like it has shot up since going through this. Wasn't sure if you had any suggestions on getting these numbers down. I have not talked to my doctor about it yet, and I don't want to go on medications. This has been going on for about a year, but the numbers seems to be going higher." I emailed her back, and I basically just asked her, all she gave me was her cholesterol and her LDL, and I asked her, the more important number is something called triglycerides and HDL. Those two numbers are much more important than the cholesterol. I'll get into the reason why that is in a second. And she came back to me. She said her triglyceride was 68, and her HDL was 64. So what happens is, first of all, let me just back up. So I'm going to ask Art some questions. So Art, what do you think? What is your opinion about cholesterol? I mean, if I were to say to you, cholesterol, high cholesterol, low cholesterol, what would you think?
I think it's got something to do with clogging up your veins or the inside of it, like a rusty pipe.
Okay.
That's what
most people think. So hear like
I'm like most people. Then you got to say that.
Yeah, you're like most people. So most people, they freak out on cholesterol. They think, oh my God, cholesterol. My cholesterol's high. My cholesterol's high. So first of all, what people have to understand is cholesterol is so important to your body. I mean, you have to have cholesterol. In fact, if you don't take cholesterol in your food, you make it. It's called endogenously. Your body makes it. So if you're not taking it in, you're making it. So it's something that basically.
Well, luckily I take it right in, so my body don't have to go through all that.
So cholesterol. So everybody's afraid the cholesterol is too high. The other thing is most of your brain is made up of cholesterol. You need cholesterol. So if somebody calls you a fathead, say thank you, okay? Because you have so much cholesterol in there. You need all this cholesterol. Testosterone, estrogen, all of your hormones are made up of cholesterol. You have to have cholesterol. When you have a cut, like I do right here, the cholesterol goes in there and it kind of patches it up. It's like, so you have to have cholesterol. So cholesterol is not a bad thing, okay? But everybody freaks out about cholesterol. My cholesterol's too high, my cholesterol's too this, my cholesterol's too that, okay? So I got another question for you. Have you heard of HDL and LDL?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think HDL is?
Isn't that a brand of a basketball?
No, I'm only kidding.
We got to.
No, be serious. Serious.
No, but I really heard the terminology, but to be honest with you, medically, or what it calls or what it is, I don't really know.
So everybody says, like HDL, they call it the good cholesterol, okay? And LDL, they call it the bad cholesterol. So they say, okay, this is your cholesterol. So all of your panels, they call it your lipid panels. This is very common. They'll do your cholesterol, they do your HDL, they'll do your LDL, and they'll do your triglyceride. Okay, so these are all things. So they say, well, if your LDL is high, they call it the bad cholesterol. That's the bad cholesterol. going to freak out. We're going to put you on a statin right now. I'm going to give you a statin right now. Just think of a statin.
So what does a statin do?
A statin, in theory, what it does is it lowers your LDL, okay? But there are some serious side effects with statins, okay? What statins do, this is well known. One thing is it increases your risk of type 2 diabetes. That's one bad thing. The other thing it does is increases your risk of Alzheimer's disease, okay? So there's kind of like there's what they call a risk reward here. So is it willing to lower your LDL and with the risk of having type 2 diabetes or having Alzheimer's disease? The other major complaint with statins is muscle weakness. People are getting weak, they don't have any energy. Gets a little complicated here, Art. So what happens is, okay, another question for you. Have you heard of mitochondria? No, everybody, mitochondria, from high school biology, the powerhouse of the cell. I know Megan knows this, the powerhouse of the cell. So mitochondria gives you energy. So in your mitochondria, you have something called the electron transport chain. And it's like, remember, Henry Ford was probably known for making the Model T, right? But actually, his biggest contribution was the assembly line. Remember? So what happens, you go from, you start off with the car, you start off with your Corvette, right? It's going through the assembly lines. You have to, in order to get the car at the end.
Mine was born, it wasn't assembled. Come on.
So we start off, right?
Yeah.
You got the chassis, and you got the thing for the wheels. Now you got to put 4 wheels on, right?
Yeah.
Then maybe the first station, the 4 wheels, then maybe the steering wheel, then the windshield,
Right,
the back,
assembly line.
Assembly line.
Yeah, yeah.
So what happens if you don't have enough wheels at the end of the assembly line? Do you think the car's ready to go? Probably not.
No.
What happens, your electron transport chain and your mitochondria, the final product is ATP, which is the energy molecule. Without ATP, you're dead. It gives you energy. Your heart, your brain, everything runs on ATP. But it has to have certain precursors, like certain wheels, like for the car, to go along with the whole thing, okay? What happens is the first part of the electron transport chain, or the first part of the assembly line, where they put the wheels on, that you need something called CoQ10 or ubiquinol. So what happens with the statin, it messes that up. So it messes up the CoQ10, so the wheels can't get on to make the ATP at that bottom. So that's one of the problems. So if anybody's on a statin, your doctor should tell you should be taking CoQ10 or ubiquinol because you don't have enough of it because that statin is messing it up at the beginning.
Well, is avastatin isn't that a cholesterol pill, or what do they call it? Avastatin?
I don't know what that is. But anyway, it's CoQ10. It's very common. You see it all over the place. So
Is it over the counter? Or?
yeah, you can buy it anywhere you want. In fact, email me philgeorge@charter.net because you've got to be careful where you get your supplements from because they could be made in China or India or Mexico.
We mentioned that once before, but go ahead, continue. Yeah.
So you want, but what they call bioavailable, the way your body uses it the best is called ubiquinol, and that's the first part of the assembly line of the electron transport chain. Okay, that puts the wheels on it to get the car going to the end. Okay, that makes sense so far. Okay, so that's why you if you're taking the statin, you want to take the ubiquinol. The reason people get all those muscle aches and get no energy is because you're not making enough of the CoQ10 to make the ATP, the energy molecule, right? So, and that's the reason why you got no energy and you're tired, because the statin is messing up the first part of the assembly line or that. So that's one of the reasons you want to do it. So what happens is cholesterol actually has no bearing in anything. The reason is this. What happens is there's something in studies or in what it's called a bathtub. You know what a bathtub looks like? It was like this goes up. So they found out people with very, very low cholesterol, they're going to die sooner than other people. It's called all-cause mortality. So you have really, really low cholesterol, which you think would be good, right? Cholesterol is awful, right?
Yeah, right.
No. So what happens, they found out people with low cholesterol have more heart attacks. But there's a very long range where you could be up to 300, even 400, and still be okay. But when you go up to a certain level, then you run into problems. So the middle range, you got no problems at all. But it's the very low or the very high. Okay? So you're with me so far? Okay.
Now, you're talking about cholesterol?
Just cholesterol.
Just a test on cholesterol.
Just cholesterol.
Because people, I believe, if I'm wrong, what is it, 100? But then if it goes over 100, people get
No,
all nervous.
cholesterol is only 300. It's normally around 300.
300?
Yeah, cholesterol is normally about 300. In fact, let me get back to Wendy. Then this will make more sense. This will make more sense to you in a second. Yeah. So she's saying her total cholesterol is 242.
Yeah, that's high.
Okay, not actually.
Okay, this is why I'm here to learn.
Yeah.
I'm a good little student.
And
now and then I mouth off, but I'm a good little student.
And her doctor, and she's afraid her doctor, and her doctor would probably put her on it. And she's saying her HDL, and the HDL is the good cholesterol is 64, and her LDL her LDL is 67. So I also wanted to know for her what her triglycerides are. So I'm just gonna we're gonna do. I got a whole slide presentation on this, Art, that I give presentations on. What I'll do, maybe another show, we can pop that up on the screen. I got these cute little pictures, you know, it makes more sense. And that way, I think the audience will follow it, because this is a complicated subject. It's called, so people will understand. I got cute pictures and stuff like that, so it won't just be me talking. So what happens is, actually, remember the HDL, the good cholesterol, and the LDL, the bad cholesterol. Those actually are not cholesterol at all. It's something called a lipoprotein, because this is the way it works. The cholesterol doesn't float around, or the LDL doesn't float around in your blood. What the HDL does and the LDL does, it's like a boat, Art, okay? And it floats in your the HDL is a lipoprotein, and the LDL is a lipoprotein. It stores cholesterol, triglycerides, all kinds of vitamins, and it goes all over your body like this. It's inside of the boat, okay? So it's not really a cholesterol, so actually it's a misnomer. It's called a lipoprotein. Okay, I get a pretty picture of this. I'll show maybe the next time we come on. So that goes all over the body, and it drops off. So you get a cut. It drops it off at the cut. You need more to make more testosterone. It drops it off at the testosterone. The boat goes all over your body. That's what the LDL does and the HDL does.
I think my boat has a leak.
Leaky boat. Leaky boat.
Go ahead.
So, the reason they call the HDL you talked before about you're thinking about what's happening is that you're getting clogs in your arteries, right? You're thinking about that, right? You've got clogs in the artery. So what happens is the LDL, it goes over there, and you have inside your blood vessels, mostly your arteries. And we talk about your blood vessels as being just like a pipe, like your pipes in your house. And we talked before about all of a sudden you get a lot of a calcification in the pipes. Yeah. What happens? The water, less and less water, and all of a sudden the water stops. It's the same with you. Your arteries get more and more calcifications, and they close, and eventually, stroke, heart attack. Right? Okay. Don't get scared. It gets better.
Yeah, I was only a guest on the show, but I certainly don't want to be participant in your last little sentence there.
We're going to do an experiment on you.
We'll show you how it's done, folks. It'll be the only show that I like it.
So that's what people are afraid of, right? They're afraid of it closing up.
Well, yeah, of course.
So what the LDL does, I'm going to get into what the LDL does, and there's basically two types of LDL. There's LDL-A, and LDL-A is the good cholesterol, okay? And what happens? It's big and fluffy. It's like a big fluffy thing, and it goes around, and it doesn't get stuck in your arteries because it's big and fluffy. It just bounces off. It comes out again. The LDL-B is little tiny like BBs, and it goes inside your arteries. That's the bad one. So there's two types of LDL. So you and I could have the same exact amount of LDL. Let's say it's 100 to pick a number, okay? And you could have no risk of heart attack because you got the LDL-A, the big fluffy ones. They're not going anywhere. I could have the same 100, and I could have LDL-B, and I could be looking for a heart attack. So the LDL doesn't tell you anything. It just tells you the total amount of LDL. It doesn't tell you what kind of LDL it is. Okay? So the LDL by itself doesn't really tell you anything. The HDL, the reason they call it the good cholesterol. Remember, it's a lipoprotein. It's not a cholesterol. What that does, that LDL, that HDL goes in there, and it takes it takes some of that bad cholesterol out of your arteries and it puts it back to the liver and it recycles it. So it kind of cleans out your arteries. That's why they love high HDLs. They absolutely love high HDLs because it does that. But you could still have very high LDL, but as long as it's the LDLA, the good one.
But how do you know it's LDLA versus LDL?
There are tests for that. There are tests.
Will they do that when they get your test results back from your doctor?
No.
And why not?
Because they just go by those numbers. You would have to specifically request them to do to break it down. It's
But
called
wouldn't they do that and saying, well, you don't need all this medicine because you got A versus B?
Doctors really do that. Rarely do that unless you specifically ask for it. Normally, like what Wendy's saying, what they'll do is they'll normally just put you on a statin.
Yeah, so that's the easy way of doing it.
It's easy way. It's easy
But
way.
it's not the correct way.
That's my opinion. This is not medical advice. This is my opinion. Okay, but I can send you philgeorge or chart.net. I'll send you tons of studies on this.
Well, once we do the experiment, people, you'll know whether I'm here or not, and then we know whether to believe them. No, we're really kidding. It's a great advice because I really didn't know. But
Okay.
go ahead, back to your
So
email.
now I'm going to
Yeah.
make it easy for people. Now you don't have to, because a lot of times insurance companies won't pay for this. So what I mentioned to Wendy, the worst one is the triglyceride. The triglyceride causes a lot of problems. Okay. So there's something called, this is the poor man's lipid test. They call it the golden ratio. And when you get all the listeners out there, when you get your lab work, they're always going to do an HDL and they're always going to do a triglyceride. So Wendy was quite concerned because she had heart disease in her family and stuff like that. So Wendy sent me her numbers, and her HDL was 64, and her triglyceride was 68. Again, email me, philgeorge at charter.net. What you do is you take your triglyceride number, which is 68, you divide your HDL into it, which is 64. As long as that number is less than 2, the ratio is less than 2, you're in good shape. Wendy's is almost 1, which is fantastic, because that means her HDL is where it's supposed to be, and her triglycerides are where it's supposed to be. So her cholesterol in this case is a meaningless number, Art, because these numbers, this is what they call the golden ratio or the poor man's lipid test. This is a great indicator. So guys, go back to your lab work, look it up. I guarantee you're going to have the triglyceride on there. You're going to have your HDL on there. Just divide the HDL into the triglyceride number. If that ratio is less than 2, you're in good shape. If it's more,
What was her numbers before?
her number is, see, we over here. So her triglyceride was 68.
Yeah.
Her HDL is 64. I divide 64 into 68. That's about 1. It's almost a 1-to-1 ratio.
Okay. Yeah.
If this was 30, right, 30 into 68, that would be about a 2 ratio. See what I'm saying? This is twice as much as this. That's all it comes down to, a little bit of math. I know how much you love math.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm a car salesman. I gotta love it. Want to buy something? I'll show you how math really works.
This is the car salesman now. So guys, this is easy way of doing it. You don't have to go spend a ton of money. And again, I can email me, philgeorge at charter. I can send you studies on this, 9 ways to the Sunday. So before you go on the statins and stuff like that, first of all, like poor Wendy, she could have wound up being on a statin, and she didn't need to be on a statin, Art, because her lab work is fine. And again, this is a pretty good metric indicator without going through a lot of different tests. So that's really the most important thing.
All right. So the question is now, obviously, the older you get, it seems like more concerned about numbers, and does that affect older people more? The cholesterol worry, or does it affect younger people? Where's the group that usually ends up being bad? I would imagine when you get older.
Oh yeah, when you get older, everything goes bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, right.
No, you're right. Okay, actually, that's a real question. Other thing, when Wendy emailed me, she said, I'm in menopause. The other thing a lot of people don't know, one of the reasons why women have a lot less heart attacks than men is because the estrogen.
Because they give them? No.
Oh, we're going to get banned. We're going to get a lot of hate. Send all your hate mail to Art at Lester Cable Television.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that.
I got orange shoulders. I can take it. No, go ahead. We got to have a little humor here, but you know. But go ahead, Phil.
Okay, so as women reach menopause, because what happens is, and the reason they have less heart attacks is it kind of protects their arteries. And what happens, once they reach menopause, they're at greater risk. But the cholesterol will normally go up 10 to 15% once they reach menopause. So that's a normal part of aging. It doesn't mean they're coming down with arterial sclerosis, hardening of the arteries. All it means is this is a normal progression because they're losing some of their estrogen. So I told Wendy, you're worried about your cholesterol going up, but this is a normal part of reaching menopause, just like hot flashes and
right.
And
it's part of nature. Yeah.
It's part of it's part of aging, just like men have certain things. But I want to get into a little bit, as a biochemist, I want to understand the mechanism of action. Why do these things happen? A lot of times a doctor will look at this and they'll say, okay, at these numbers, we're going to throw a medication at it. They don't say, what are you eating? Are you exercising? It's like, okay, your numbers are here. Here's a drug. There's a drug for everything. There's a drug for every ill, right? There's a drug. They go drug for this, drug for that. Unless you got somebody, or really, like they call if you got a really good doctor that says, well, maybe I'm going to sit down with you for 15 minutes, Art, and we're going to talk about, maybe get your diet under control. Maybe you need to go out and put that top down on your Corvette and get more vitamin D, things like that. In fact, I think you can take your Corvette with the convertible as a medical expense because it gives you more vitamin D. Okay, you want me to write you a prescription for that? You can take it up.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't want to be your doctor, number one. But now, all right. So, hardening of the arteries. Is there a way that you can reverse that?
Yes. Okay.
I think that would be important.
We talk about that all the time. We talked about, remember vitamin K2?
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, guys, D3, when you take your D3, which is really, really important.
That's a vitamin D3.
D3,
yeah.
it's a hormone.
Yeah.
The best way to get it is from the sun. So if you're rich like Art, you buy yourself a fancy convertible, you put the top down, and you drive all over and expose as much. And you wear a Speedo when you drive around, right?
Oh, I can't drive without one. Yeah. I have two of them, actually. One that matches the color of the car. And, yeah. The other one's just a bright green because I don't want to be noticed.
So you want that. But what happens with vitamin D, what happens is vitamin D, a lot of people know, one of the best ways, it takes calcium and it puts it into the blood. That's one of the main things vitamin D does. But it can go two places, or more than two places. It can go into your bones and into your teeth, or it can go into your arteries. So what K2 does, it tells the calcium, don't go into the arteries, go into the teeth, go into the bones. So that's why you want to take vitamin K2. To answer your question directly, the other thing they found with vitamin K2 is if you take K2 on its own, it will start taking some of that calcium out of the arteries. So you can decalcify your arteries with that, okay?
Just with K2?
Just with K2 by itself.
Now, can you buy D3? Is it better to buy the K2 separately or to combine them?
I buy them together, and again, email me, philgeorge.
Together, you mean within one pill?
Pill.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and especially women, somebody asked me this question, in fact, women hate to take pills because they have a smaller throat, so they don't, as guys, they can, our throat's a little bit bigger, so they don't, so, and plus, it's easier to take one pill as opposed to that, but if you think you have some, you have some calcification, it's mostly in your carotid arteries, these arteries right here. You can take K2 on its own. Okay, maybe take a certain amount of that.
With the D3
Yeah.
K2?
Or even take more of it if you wanted to.
Okay, yeah, that was my
The
question.
other thing you may want to do when you see your doctor, we talked about the pipes, and just like your carotid arteries are the pipes that's in your house with the calcification.
Correct. Yeah.
You're not knowing. In fact, when I did seminars for the VA, I had one of the executive directors who was asking me these kind of questions. He had a lot of strokes in his family, and he was petrified of having a stroke. In
Well,
fact,
I don't blame the man.
so he said to his kids, this is a joke, he said, "This is my shotgun. If I have a stroke, just blow my head off. I don't want to live like that." You know, so I mean, that's how scared he was.
Well, I think the older generation, that's how they felt. They didn't want to be a burden.
Burden,
on
yeah, and
anybody,
that's the thing we talked. The
and plus, if you're on the ball and you've had a successful life, then all of a sudden there's nothing more sadder than seeing when someone that loses their ability, and you know, it's tough.
We talked another show, Art. That was the main thing. The biggest fear that people get when they get older is not cancer or heart disease. It's basically losing their mind. It's, you know, because really the only differentiating between us and the monkeys is our brain. So I mean, after that point, you're basically, when you lose that, you would kind of lose your humanity, and it's sad. And anybody that's had a spouse that has had Alzheimer's or dementia or stroke. And again, we don't want to be really a burden on our families. And
no, and especially a man, I think that they generally have the head of the household. I know there's women also, but I'm talking about in the past. We're talking about in the past now, when my father and his, you know, my grandfather, they were considered the man of the household. You were the strong person. If you go down mentally and you become a burden, you you don't want to do that to your family almost. So when you say that that fellow, you know, give me a gun, I don't want
to live like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing that he's no longer the part of that family. You become a burden to the family.
This isn't modern. This is actually what they call evolutionary biology. Men are hardwired for this. We're hardwired to be the provider, the protector. We're hardwired for that. That's why, you know, the old thing, the Titanic, women and children first. Same thing. I mean, it's the same thing. You know, men are hardwired. They said that's one of the reasons why they didn't want women in combat, because the man's natural instinct is to protect the woman. I mean, you know, whether you know that's socially correct now or not, I don't know. But
but we're talking about Mother Nature way back when.
It's not way back. This day, we're hardwired for this, Art. I mean, I've done whole shows on this. It's evolutionary biology. We're hardwired. We're made up that way. That's in our chromosomes and everything else. So that's the reason why it's so important. So what you want to do is you want to keep these pipes. So a quick point, what you can do is, when you see your doctor, get the stethoscope, put it over here, and he's able to hear that swish, 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 and have a pretty good idea.
Oh, that with okay, yeah.
And the number one is called the calcium artery score, where they actually put you in this machine, and they can see how much clotting you have over there.
Oh, no kidding.
It's called the calcium
Now,
artery
my
score.
brother had to have an operation to...
Roto-rooter.
Because, I guess he couldn't see out of one eye, and he got nervous, and then he went in, and they said, yeah, you got a, what's that artery up here?
Carotid.
Yeah, it's plugged or whatever.
Yeah, right, carotid arteries. There's two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's clogged. So what happens is they do like a roto-rooter. They go in there, and they clean it out.
But that's dangerous, because if any little piece falls, it can go into your brain and bingo.
So the whole point is you want to stop it before it happens.
Right.
K2 and just like this. So we're getting a notice, Art, that we're running out of time. So
Okay.
we covered it. On another show, I think I may have a guest next week. If not, another show, I'm going to bring all the slides to Art. We'll take a deep dive into cholesterol. You'll see all these cutesy pictures, and it'll make a lot more sense to you if you can actually see. When I do my seminars, this is what I do. And if you ever want me to do a seminar somewhere, I may be doing one at the Senior Center right here in Leicester, and probably one of the things we'll cover is that. You know, just email me, philgeorge@charter.net. Thanks for coming, Art. Thanks for all the hard questions.
I learned something today. I really actually did, yeah. No.
Okay, guys, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.